The Texas midget's testicles were hurting and ached almost all the time. So the midget went to the doctor and told him about his problem. The doctor told him to drop his pants and he would have a look. The midget dropped his pants. The doctor stood him up onto the examining table and started to examine him. The doc put one finger under his left testicle and told the midget to turn his head and cough. Aha, mumbled the doc. Then he put his finger under the right side and asked the midget to cough again. Aha, said the doctor once more. He reached for his surgical scissors. Snip, 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 snip on the right side. Then snip, 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 snip on the left side. The midget was so scared he was afraid to look, but noted with amazement that the snipping did not hurt. The doctor then told the midget to walk around the examining room to see if his testicles still hurt. The midget was absolutely delighted as he walked around and discovered his boys were no longer aching. The doctor said, "How does that feel now?" The midget replied, "Perfect, doc. And I didn't even feel it." "What did you do?" The doctor replied, "I cut 2 inches off the top of your cowboy boots." The blonde reported for her university final examination that consists of yes/no type questions. She takes her seat in the examination hall, stares at the question paper for 5 minutes, and then, in a fit of inspiration, takes out her purse, removes a coin, and starts tossing the coin, marking the answer sheet yes for heads and no for tails. Within half an hour, she is all done, whereas the rest of the class is still sweating it out. During the last few minutes, she is seen desperately throwing the coin, muttering and sweating. The moderator, alarmed, approaches her and asks what is going on. She replies, "I finished the exam in half an hour, but now I'm just rechecking my answers." A man walked into a doctor's office. The receptionist asked him what he had. He replied, "I got shingles." She said, "Fill out this form with your name, address, and insurance number. When you're done, take a seat." 15 minutes later, nurse's aide came out, took him to the examining room and asked him what he had. He said, "I got shingles." So she took down his height, weight, and complete medical history, then said, "Change into this gown." A half hour later, the nurse came in and asked him what he had. He said, "I got shingles." She gave him a blood test, a blood pressure test, an electrocardiogram, and told him to wait for the doctor. An hour later, the doctor came in and asked him what he had. He said, "I got shingles." The doctor gave him a thorough examination and said, "I've checked you thoroughly. I can't find shingles anywhere." The man replied, "They're outside of my truck. Where do you want them?" A man came home from an exhausting day at work, plopped down on the couch in front of the television, and told his wife, "Get me a beer before it starts," the wife's side, and got him a beer. 10 minutes later, he said, "Give me another beer before it starts." She looked cross, but fetched another beer and slammed it down next to him. He finished that beer and a few minutes later said, "Quick, give me another beer. It's going to start any minute." The wife was furious. "Is that all you're going to do tonight? Drink beer and sit in front of that TV? You're nothing but a lazy, drunken, fat slob, and furthermore," the man sighed and said it started. A young boy stopped by the corner grocery store and read his list to the clerk: 10 pounds of sugar at 1.25 a pound, 4 pounds of coffee beans at 1.50 a pound, 2 pounds of butter at 1 or at 1.10 a pound, and 2 bars of soap at 83 pence each. "How much does that come to?" 22 pounds and 36 pence, replied the clerk. "If I gave you 3 10-pound notes, how much change would I get?" 7 pounds and 64 pence. With that, the boy walked out saying, "Thanks. That's my arithmetic homework done for tomorrow." A trucker came into a truck stop cafe and placed his order. He said, "I want 3 flat tires, a pair of headlights, and a pair of running boards." The brand new blonde waitress, not wanting to appear stupid, went to the kitchen and said to the cook, "This guy out there just ordered 3 flat tires, a pair of headlights, and a pair of running boards. What does he think this place is? An auto parts store?" "No," the cook said. 3 flat tires mean 3 pancakes, a pair of headlights is 2 eggs sunny side up, and a couple of running boards are 2 slices of crisp bacon. "Oh, okay," said the blonde, who thought about it for a moment, then spooned up a bowl of beans and gave it to the customer. The trucker asked, "What are the beans for, Blondie?" She replied, "I thought you may as well gas up while you're waiting for the flat tires, headlights, and running boards." There was a religious woman who had to do a lot of traveling for her business. Flying made her very nervous, so she always took her Bible along with her. One time, she was sitting next to a man. When he saw her pull out her Bible, he gave a little chuckle and smirk and went back to what he was doing. After a while, he turned to her and asked,
You don't really believe all that stuff in there, do you? The woman replied, of course I do. It is the Bible. He said, well, what about that guy that was swallowed by that whale? She replied, oh, Jonah, yes, I believe that. It is in the Bible. He asked, well, how do you suppose he survived all that time inside the whale? The woman said, well, I don't really know. I guess when I get to heaven, I will ask him. What if he isn't in heaven? Man asks sarcastically. The woman replies, then you can ask him. A wife decides to take her husband, Dave, to a strip club for his birthday. They arrive at the club and the doorman says, hey, Dave, how ya doing? His wife is puzzled and asks if he's been to this club before. Oh no, says Dave, he's on my bowling team. When they are seated, a waitress asks Dave if he'd like his usual and brings over a Budweiser. His wife is becoming increasingly uncomfortable and says, how did she know that you drink Budweiser? She's in the ladies' bowling league, honey. We share lanes with them. A stripper then comes over to their table, throws her arms around Dave and says, hi, Davey. Want your usual table dance, big boy. Dave's wife, now furious, grabs her purse and storms out of the club. Dave follows and spots her getting into a cab. Before she can slam the door, he jumps in beside her. He tries desperately to explain how the stripper must have mistaken him for someone else, but his wife is having none of it. She is screaming at him at the top of her lungs, calling him every name in the book. The cabbie turns his head and says, looks like you picked up a real beach tonight, Dave. An overweight blonde consulted her doctor for advice. The doctor said she should run 10 miles a day for 30 days. This, he promised, would help her lose the 20 pounds she's been trying to get rid of. Blonde followed the doctor's advice, and after 30 days, she was pleased to find that she had indeed lost the pesky 20 pounds. She then phoned the doctor and thanked him for the wonderful advice which produced such effective results. At the end of the conversation, however, she asked one last question: how do I get home since I am now 300 miles away? A boy named Ouahid lived in a village in Morocco. None of his classmates liked him because of his stupidity, and especially his teacher, who was always yelling at him, you are driving me crazy, Ouahid. One day, Ouahid's mother came into school to check on how he was doing. The teacher told his mother honestly that her son is simply a disaster, getting very low marks, and even she had never seen such a dumb boy in her entire teaching career. The mother was shocked at the feedback and withdrew her son from the school, even moved to another town. 25 years later, the teacher was diagnosed with a barely curable cardiac disease. All the doctors strongly advised her to have an open heart operation, which only one surgeon could perform. There were no other options. The teacher decided to have the operation, which was successful. When she opened her eyes after the surgery, she saw a handsome doctor smiling down at her. She wanted to thank him, but could not talk. Her face started to turn blue. She raised her hand, trying to tell him something, but she died. The doctor was shocked and was trying to work out what went wrong. When he turned around, he saw our friend Ouahid working as a cleaner in the clinic, who had unplugged the oxygen equipment to connect his vacuum cleaner. Don't tell me you thought that Ouahid had become a flipping doctor.